The small town of Wraithmoor was nestled at the foot of a vast and dense forest, its trees dark and gnarled like the fingers of old witches. As Halloween approached, an aura of unease draped over the town like a thick fog. Young Elena, a college student home for the holidays, was always curious about legends and folklore. In the town's quaint cafe, she overheard tales of the whispering woods that came alive on Halloween night. The locals spoke in hushed tones, their faces pale as they recounted stories of people hearing faint voices that led them into the woods, never to return. Elena's best friend, Jamie, who had joined her for coffee, scoffed at these tales. "Typical small-town stories to keep children away from the woods," he remarked with a smirk. But Elena was intrigued. What if there's some truth to it? What if there's something out there waiting to be discovered? Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows on Wraithmoor's cobbled streets, Elena gathered a group of friends. Jamie, who came for the thrill, Clara, the town's budding journalist always chasing a story, and Max, a tech geek with a penchant for capturing the unknown on his camera. As they approached the forest's edge, the eeriness was palpable. The wind howled through the trees, making them rustle as though whispering secrets to one another. Elena took a deep breath. "We're only exploring the outskirts. If things get too creepy, we turn back," she declared, trying to mask her own trepidation. They walked slowly, flashlights in hand. The deeper they ventured, the more pronounced the whispers became. At first it sounded like the rustling of leaves or the soft chirping of crickets, but gradually the sounds evolved into discernible voices, faint yet eerily clear. "Stay, listen," one voice beckoned. "Turn back," warned another. Clara, her journalistic instincts kicking in, began taking notes. "These might be auditory illusions," she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. Jamie, ever the skeptic, tried to mimic the voices, but there was a tremor in his laughter. Max's camera, which he'd set to record, suddenly malfunctioned. The screen blinked erratically before shutting down. "That's never happened before," he murmured, his face pale. The group stopped when they reached a clearing. In the center stood an ancient, gnarled tree, its bark etched with symbols that seemed to move and shimmer in the dim light. Around the tree, a circle of smooth stones glistened as though recently placed. Elena, drawn to the tree, stepped forward and touched its trunk. A rush of images flooded her mind. Townsfolk from a bygone era gathered in the same clearing, chanting in an unfamiliar tongue. A young woman tied to the tree, her eyes filled with terror, and shadows dancing around her, their voices a cacophony of whispers. Snapping back to reality, Elena stumbled back, her heart racing. "We need to leave, now," she gasped. But as they turned to retreat, the whispers grew louder and more insistent, surrounding them and pulling them in different directions. Jamie, usually so confident, looked around wildly. Which way did we come from? The realization hit them all at once. They were lost, and the woods, with all its legends and lore, had them ensnared. The story of Wraithmoor's whispering woods had just begun, and the group was now a part of its haunting tale. As the group tried to retrace their steps, the forest seemed to twist and morph around them. Paths they believed they'd traversed now led to unfamiliar clearings. Trees appeared older, their branches more gnarled, as though time itself was warping. Jamie tried to maintain his bravado. "This is just some prank. Maybe the townsfolk have speakers set up," he asserted, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his unease. Yet the whispers grew louder, more distinct, weaving tales of Wraithmoor's history. They spoke of forbidden romances, betrayal, vengeance, and dark pacts. Elena, now sensitive to the forest's communication, felt overwhelmed by the barrage of emotions. Clara, notebook in hand, began to chronicle the tales. "If we survive this," she whispered, "this will be the most important story of Wraithmoor." One voice, however, stood out to Elena. It was softer, more plaintive than the others. "Help me," it repeated. Drawn to it, Elena led the group towards its source. Deep in the heart of the woods, they stumbled upon an old well. The structure was ancient, its stones covered in moss and the same moving symbols they'd seen on the tree. Max, regaining his courage, tried to reboot his camera, hoping it might work again. To his surprise, it did, and he started filming. As they approached, the whispers coalesced into a singular voice emanating from the depths of the well. "I am Ilara," it began, "a victim of the town's treachery. My love for a man from a rival village led to our capture. While he was banished, I was bound to this forest, my spirit trapped between realms." Elena, tears in her eyes, responded, "How can we help you, Ilara?" "You must break the curse," Ilara whispered. "Find the locket I once wore and return it to this well." The group felt a renewed sense of purpose. With Ilara guiding them, they navigated the labyrinthine woods, seeking clues to the locket's whereabouts. Along the way, the forest revealed more of its secrets, each whisper a fragment of Wraithmoor's complex tapestry. Finally, at dawn's first light, they arrived at the base of the ancient tree from earlier. Beneath its roots, Jamie discovered a rusted metal box. Inside, tarnished by time but still glimmering, was a silver locket, with an engraving of two intertwined hearts. Rushing back to the well, Elena dropped the locket into its dark depths. The forest, as if exhaling a long-held breath, seemed to transform. The heavy atmosphere lifted, the trees brightened, and the once menacing whispers faded into gentle murmurs of gratitude. But their ordeal was not over. Ilara's voice, full of sorrow, intoned, "You've freed me, but the woods still hold many more. For true freedom, the stories of Wraithmoor must be told." As the group exited the woods, the sunbathing Wraithmoor in a golden hue, they knew their adventure was only beginning. The tales of the Whispering Woods awaited, and they were the chosen storytellers. Emerging from the forest, the group was met with a sight they hadn't expected. Wraithmoor seemed different. The buildings appeared older, and the townsfolk dressed in attire from a century prior. The weight of the realization hit them. They hadn't just navigated a physical forest, but also a temporal one. Elena's house, usually a cozy modern cottage, now stood as a grand Victorian mansion. As she approached the entrance, an older woman, resembling her, descended the steps. "Ah, Elena," she sighed with sadness in her eyes. "You've ventured into the woods, haven't you?" Confused, Elena nodded. "Grandmother?" she whispered, recognizing the woman from old photographs. "Yes, child. The woods have their own rules. While you've freed one spirit, you've awakened others, particularly the Wraith of Wraithmoor." Jamie interjected. "Wraith? You mean those ghostly things from legends?" The older Elena nodded. "Yes, but this one's different. He was a protector of Wraithmoor, turned vengeful after the townsfolk betrayed him. With Ilara's freedom, he sees an opportunity to reclaim the town." Max, still gripping his camera, pondered. "We have footage of the forest, the well, and the locket. Maybe there's a clue in there about the Wraith." Gathering in the mansion's study, they played back the footage. Amidst the static, a shadowy figure lurked in the background of several shots. A tall, imposing figure with piercing eyes that seemed to track their every move. Clara, piecing the story together, deduced, "The Wraith must have been watching us since we entered the woods. He knows what we're up to." The older Elena sighed. "The Wraith can only be placated by returning what was stolen from him, a sacred amulet taken by the town's founders. It's said to be hidden in the very mansion you stand in." The search commenced. From the dusty attic filled with old trinkets to the expansive cellars with their echoing corridors, the group sought the amulet. Guided by hints from the older Elena's recollections and Max's intermittent camera feedback, they finally discovered a secret chamber behind the Grand Library. Inside, protected by layers of enchantments, lay the amulet, a medallion of pure gold with an intricately carved tree, resembling the one in the woods. With the amulet in hand, they returned to the forest's edge. The older Elena had warned them of a ritual. At the stroke of midnight, place the amulet at the base of the ancient tree and recite the old Wraithmoor vow. As they chanted the vow, the forest came alive. The wind howled, leaves swirled, and from the shadows emerged the Wraith. His form, menacing at first, shifted as the amulet's glow enveloped him. With a nod of acknowledgement, he dissolved into the woods. With the Wraith's appeasement, the forest's temporal distortion corrected itself. Wraithmoor returned to its present state. But the memories of the ordeal remained etched in the minds of Elena and her friends. As dawn broke, they stood at the forest's edge, a new understanding in their hearts. The whispering woods held stories, not just of horror, but also of redemption, and they were its chosen storytellers. Thank you for venturing into the haunting tales of Wraithmoor with us. The whispering woods may have shared their secrets, but there are countless other stories waiting in the shadows. If you've enjoyed this chilling journey and wish to be a part of more adventures, remember to hit that subscribe button below. Join our community, and together we'll uncover the mysteries that lurk in the darkest corners of our world. Until next time, keep the legends alive and remember, not all whispers should be ignored.